Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in the studio and online. Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation today. It's day 345 of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor, and now we will be talking about the situation with our power grid. I want to introduce you to a speaker. It's Oleksandr Kharchenko, Director at the Energy Industry Research Center. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Let's start with the current situation with our power grid. What's your assessment of it for today? Well, the situation for today is stable. We have a steady deficit in the system amounting to 20-25% of generation during peak hours, and it's clear that this problem will not be solved promptly. The existent damage, the captured power plants, the destroyed substations, they don't allow us to fully cover the consumption in the amount that country requires for the time being. The repairing works are in progress, but we have to understand that the condition of coal generation was far from perfect even before, and when the damage inflicted by the missile strikes added to it, the technical situation became even more complicated, and today we have a situation when 2 blocks were repaired and were commissioned back in operation, and the other ones got damaged due to missile strikes, so it's pretty difficult to cover the demand in full. Also, the situation is still difficult in high voltage grid. I think it will remain this way 2 to 3 months, because the equipment that will be able to change the situation on fundamental level will appear maybe in 2 or 3 months. The good news is that we are in position when you see, like lately, I think many people feel it with the latest missile strikes don't deteriorate the situation significantly. We learned how to fight this situation. I mean, it includes air defense, the maneuvering with the system during the missile strikes itself, the prompt repair works, and the new skills that the energy technicians acquired, I would say, at high price during such strikes. They allow us altogether to minimize the aftermath of the missile strikes. Well, talking about the reconstruction of the power grid, what's the pace of it? What's your assessment of such pace, and what regions feel the most difficult now? Well, the most difficult situation is in Odessa and Kherson region. Kyiv and Kharkiv are just a little bit behind in this regard, but they're very similar. Other regions feel a bit easier. So those are the regions where the deficit is the biggest, and those are the regions where delivering of the electric power is most difficult. It's difficult to transport the power from the generating capacities to those regions for distribution amongst consumers. So now it's not real to work more efficiently, more rapidly. It's not about the lack of people or lack of skills, but we cannot physically expedite the delivery of that heavy equipment which is necessary to re-establish normal operation of the power grid. As I already mentioned, the works are in progress, but again, I wouldn't expect any improvement within a term shorter than 2 to 3 months. We've heard the statement by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal during his meeting with his European colleagues. He mentioned the option for import of 2 megawatts of electric power from European Union. It's absolutely real. We are synchronized with the European power grid. We have some technical limits from Europe. It's 600 megawatts per day and 700 megawatts per night. But we obviously need to expand our importing capabilities. There is a dialogue in progress with the European colleagues, and I believe that within a month or month and a half the limits are going to be expanded. But the other thing is the price of electric power. We have to pay for it. There are businesses who already understand that it's better to pay the market European price rather than waiting for something for better weather. And they started already contracting that power that will be the source that the flow of which will intensify, but it already started flowing. Well, we understand that import means the growth of price. First of all, those talks already started about the growth of potential growth of tariffs for population, for individual consumers. Should we really expect any growth of prices of electric power for individual consumers? Well, I would not expect such growth due to a number of political circumstances, but I think that we have to start forgetting the soonest possible about the tariffs for population, because those are the rudimentary prices of the Soviet era when the corruption schemes were built. We have to proceed to European practice with market prices and address subsidies for those who really need those subsidies. Because when I'm hearing that the growth of prices for population is Armageddon somewhere in Kiev, well, I'm telling them, guys, look at your power bill. It's like 250 hryvnias, which amounts to $8. I mean, come on. Those who weep about that price, they don't really care about that price, and the real result is the pressure on the budget, the corruption, and so on and so forth. And the high tariff is only imposed on those who have big houses, who have big estates, who have big accounts with the banks, and I think it's really nothing for them in terms of percentage of their income. So, but for those for whom the utility bills account for more than 10% of their income, they should receive such direct subsidies which would compensate all the costs. It's my personal idea about 10%. That would be honest, that would be transparent, because now all those low tariffs, so-called subsidized tariffs, which are imposed on different state-owned enterprises, they create a lot of space for corruption and a fantastic environment for non-efficiency. You mentioned big businesses, you mentioned the businesses who already understood that it's necessary to negotiate and contract the import of power. We see that one business in the region already contracted some amount of electric power to be imported from European Union. So what will be the enterprises? How will the infrastructure be involved? Well, obviously the power infrastructure, mainway power infrastructure, belongs to the state, but anybody who has a relevant license for buying or selling electric power may go out to the international market. Is the electronic transparent mechanisms coordinated with European partners. There are daily bids. If you have a source of power supply from European Union, you just go to the auction, and to the auction provided by Ukrinform, which is going on a daily basis by Ukrinform. Well, there are a lot of actually businesses who already import the electric power, mainly the traders who redistribute it in the territory of Ukraine among businesses, but the number of such businesses will grow. So yeah, if we scale it, how will it release the burden from our power grid? Well, it will not solve the problem strategically, but it will improve the situation from the vantage point of the businesses, and there will be more regulation or generation for utility consumers, for individual consumers. We have to still rebuild and renew our generation, our capacities, because natural position for Ukraine is not important of power, but the exporter. We just need to win the war and to renew our power grid. Dear colleagues, your questions, please. Good afternoon, Yana Koloda, Ukrinform. My question is about the import. I would like to know the specific figures. What was the amount of electric power imported during January? Well, those figures are absolutely open. I don't want to lie to you because I may confuse it. I don't keep those figures in my head. It's about 60 million kilowatts or something like that. I don't want to lie, but that's an open information. You may find it. It's available in the open sources. It's been published by many experts, and well, if it's really necessary, I will send it to you. You may check it out. But generally, the amounts of general consumption they are not so big. There are many discussions currently about the penalties imposed on Ukrinform. Do you think that Oblenergo may fulfill their duties in full, the duties imposed by the regulator, or the commission presses on the companies? Well, you know, I really support the regulator, because a lot of regional distributors, they approach the distribution and establishment of schedules in a very easy manner, that they don't really understand how important it is for the people, because in that way they make situation unforecastable, and it should be, and due to the fact that they are just feel it lazy and people get switched off out of their turn, out of their queue, that's the regional distributor who should get the blame, and they should feel that they should have control over them without resorting to the, or like referring to the war or difficult circumstances. A lot of them are very far from the front lines, so please keep working normally. Well, after that, will those schedules of the rolling shutdowns, will they be reviewed? Well, there is already feedback from the people, from those regional distributors who were already penalized. The situation with them already improved. Mr. Oleksandr, when we were talking about the winter, we were saying that we will feel more difficult in winter. So now that we're almost through, and it's only February that is left, I cannot help but asking, are we going to feel better in March, or your forecasts moved a little bit? Well, I'm sure that the improvement of the situation will be felt in April, and that confirms my hypothesis for myself. First of all, I don't think anything will happen in March that will improve the situation generally. Thank you, Mr. Oleksandr. Dear colleagues, I'm reminding you, joining us was Oleksandr Kharchenko, the director at the Energy Industry Research Center. Our next briefing is at 1400. Joining us online will be Maria Mezentseva, member of Verkhovna Rada, head of the permanent delegation of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. So bear with us. Trust in the armed forces, and glory to Ukraine. Thank you.